Berlin in March is a mauve that stains your skin, especially if that skin is tired and you're standing outside a factory gate, hands numb, breath hanging in clouds. The traffic chokes the air. That morning, my boots felt twice as heavy, feet pruned from hours of damp, the roar from the machines still humming behind my eyes. I watched the others slouch down the back steps with the same loose-limbed defeat, some lighting cigarettes with fingers that hadn't quite woken up. The foreman's voice echoed, "Dismissed, boys, we're cutting hours this spring, costs and all that." I stood in the yard and felt the rejection settle into the marrow of my bones. I was 24, my name is Jonas. Maybe that's important, maybe not. Maybe just another Jonas who paints things that no one buys, not really. I shoved my hands in my pockets, brushing against my sketchbook, the corners soft from being touched, handled, hidden. The others called me Dea Spinner, Berlin's slang for dreamer, but less gentle, more like crackpot. They thought of me as a joke. The factory was a grave for men who thought they could be more than muscle and machine, and I was a repeat offender. I broke from the huddle of tired men, Schroeder with the bad knee, you who could sleep while standing on concrete, Mamit with the endless stories, none of whom painted, all of whom mocked. I could still hear Schroeder's voice in my ear, "So Jonas painting again, you'll be richer than Van Gogh, yeah." His wife even laughed, plate in hand, the sound trailing out after me when I left their tiny kitchen last Christmas. Home was 3 flights up in Kreuzberg, the stairs creaking a welcome that no one meant. My mother, thin as a whisper and tired of rent increases and my childishness, as she said, left tea for me on the blue-tiled counter. My sketches papered the fridge, passive reminders of failure. She watched me, her face folded in on itself, waiting for me to say something reasonable, something about new job applications. Instead, I went to my room. The walls were bare except for a single poster of Hopper's Nighthawks, the only image I owned that made silence feel like hope instead of verdict. I dropped my bag, let the small window catch my gaze, and stared out, paint-stained fingers knotted in my hair, willing myself not to cry. That day my hands shook for reasons beyond cold. I painted that night, shoulders hunched, framing Berlin in strokes both frantic and tender. I saw the city as no one else did, steam from currywurst stands rising golden, the arch of the Oberbaum Bridge stretched like the spine of a lover, rain puddles turning streetlights into fractured jewelry. By the time I stopped, my knuckles ached, and the canvas was another secret I kept from everyone else. The next months blurred, rejection letters pinned to a board, odd shifts at other factories, pitying smiles from my mother, neighbors shaking their heads. Every suggestion was a dismissal. "There's honest work," said Frau Kruger from 2B. "Your head is in clouds, but your fridge is empty." I nodded, thanked her, thought about painting her portrait with all the hurt I felt. Some nights I would stand at the Spree, the river dark and treacherous, clutching my newest canvas. I never threw one in, though I wanted to, just to see if surrender tasted as sweet as people said. But something metallic steel maybe curled inside me, a refusal even if the world rolled its eyes. I sold my first piece to a Danish tourist. He saw me painting along the canal and paid €40 for a scene of Görlitzer Park under rain. I laughed when he pressed the money into my palm. It didn't feel real. I called my sister Anna just to hear her voice and broke when I told her. She was the only one who'd ever said, "Try, Jonas. Even if it's stupid." She brought friends to my makeshift show at a Newcombe bar a summer later. They clapped, the rest of the bar nursed their beers unimpressed. My mother didn't come. She said she had to work a double shift, but I know she didn't want to see disappointment up close, like catching it might be contagious. Sometimes Berlin felt like a city measured in distance between people's dreams and their debts. I walked everywhere, my sketchbook bulging. I painted for annual neighborhood festivals, sometimes for nothing, sometimes for enough to buy bread and jam. The walls closed in and I started sleeping in my clothes in case a new shift called. Then the call came, not for work but for hope. A gallery in Prenzlauer Berg invited me to submit 3 paintings. I almost missed the email. I'd stopped checking, thinking nothing but bills could arrive. After I pressed send on my application, I sat frozen, afraid my hope would make things worse. Weeks passed, then suddenly my mobile buzzed as I hauled groceries up 4 floors. A woman's voice clipped, kind, "Mr. Falk. We'd like to show your work." 3 paintings, no promises, but hope flickered sharp and hot in my chest. I chose 3 canvases. Each one bled memories, factories at dawn, club lights bouncing along wet stone, my mother's hunched back at the stovetop. I delivered them myself, heart thundering. When the opening came, Anna insisted on coming, even if she had to borrow a dress. The gallery glowed, white walls, wine glasses brimming, conversations coiled soft along the ceiling. My paintings hung clean and proud, their colors daring the grey Berlin outside. People stopped, looking longer than I hoped. Someone asked about my influences, I forgot how to answer. A pair of collectors bought one €400 cash. Anna gripped my wrist, nails sharp, hope sharpened into pride. It wasn't a fairy tale, one show didn't change everything. Even after that, I painted in cold rooms and ate cheap bread. Critics mentioned my name, sometimes paired with promising and sometimes with derivative, but I learned that failure was quieter now, smaller than the shimmer of hope that never died. Years peeled by, my mother grew brittle, then softer. She shuffled to see my shows, scolding me for my hair but pressing flyers into her friends' hands. I started painting commissions, murals for schools, portraits for newlyweds, seeing their joy as a kind of medicine. Then Berlin remembered me, galleries reached out. I painted a mural on a massive concrete wall for the city's spring festival. The mayor shook my hand and suddenly magazines called. One morning, just before my 33rd birthday, my phone buzzed with a new voice, a museum curator in Paris, offering me a residency. It wasn't until the Berlin Museum of Modern Art called that I felt the world tilt. They wanted 10 pieces, a full exhibit, a Berlin of your own. When I hung the last canvas, sweat trickling down my spine, I thought of the factory yard at dawn. Back when hope felt like a joke, everyone was in on but me. The opening was set for April, my name printed large and clean on banners hanging over the Tiergarten. Newspapers wrote about local boy made good, all that tired script, but now my name meant more than a sneer. I stood with Anna before the doors opened. She fixed my collar, still frowning like I might bolt. "You're really doing it," she whispered. I nodded, my throat thick. People poured in, well-dressed, expectant. Critics, old classmates, faces drawn tight with something like disbelief. I spotted Schroeder by the canapes, peering at a canvas near the window. Yu was with him, hair gone thin, suit too tight. They looked at my name beneath a painting of the canal, water thick with possibility, and then up at me. My mother came too, wrapped in her brown coat, hair pinned neat. She made her way to the center, pausing by each painting, her eyes bright with pride or maybe just relief. Frau Kruger from 2B shuffled behind her, muttering, "Well, he did it then, the boy." From the murmurs around me, I could feel the city's doubts crawling back into their burrows. I heard Schroeder's laugh, a little thinner, uneasy. "Not bad, eh, Jonas?" He stood before my largest painting, a sprawl of the city at twilight, neon burning holes in the gloom. "Can't believe it, our Jonas." Mehmet slapped my back. Yu extended a hand, eyes wet, jaw working like he'd swallowed something hard. "Guess you made it, huh?" he muttered, his voice almost reverent. For a moment I saw myself, boots heavy, shoulders hunched on the factory floor. I remembered trembling hands, rejection, the feeling of being less than everyone else's expectations. I remembered the word spinner, how it strung. Now it was nothing, a thread snapped, a label shrugged off. Reporters asked me about Berlin, about struggle, about the difference between painting for hope and painting for food. I didn't dress up the story, didn't make it easier than it was. I talked about my mother's laughter, sharp as vinegar, and the friends whose doubt kept me hungry. I spoke about Anna, who held my hand through every failure, and about the silence of an old Neukölln studio, where dreams outgrew mockery. The crowd thinned, some pressed my hand, others left quick. Pride dug its teeth, even when proven wrong. My mother slipped an arm in mine, her touch firmer than before. "You were stubborn," she said, something soft and fierce beneath her words. "You made me proud, forgive me for doubting." I kissed her brow, the paint still under my nails, and felt something old heal between us. We walked home under the city's rain-bright glow. The factory was closed now, shuttered for good, a casualty of time. Its windows caught our reflections, and I remembered the boy who watched dawn over cracked concrete, dreaming of color no one else could see. In the weeks that followed, my neighbors started greeting me by name. Children peered shyly from doorways, holding my flyers, asking when I'd draw chalk animals again on the pavement. Schroeder called once, voice low, to ask if I'd paint his daughter for her wedding. I laughed, a tender, real sound, and said yes. Sometimes, on late walks home, I'd pause by the old factory steps, running my hand along stone worn smooth from thousands of boots. I remembered every jeer, every slantwise smile, every stolen hour beneath dim apartment bulbs. I thought of success not like a weight but a lightness, something earned, something returned. Berlin stayed the same, steel cold in the morning, sun warm by afternoon, thrumming to a rhythm equal parts hope and hunger. I no longer hid my sketchbook. I walked with Anna arm in arm, painting the city as I saw it, letting the world's sneers slide off my skin. On balmy nights my mother made tea, sitting by the window as I sketched, her hands steady, her gaze soft. In the city that once rejected me, I became the proof. My brush told the story, tender but unyielding, a record of laughter and steel, of dreams that refused to die.